Hello, my friends. Happy Friday. A good Erev Shabbos, and followed by a wonderful, beautiful, uplifting, and inspiring Shabbos Kodesh. So, this week's parsha, we continue the saga of Yaakov Avinu, our forefather Yaakov, the beginning of the Jewish people. Last week, he had 11 of his 12 sons. He had his daughter, and this week he's heading back to Israel, hoping that things will be okay with his brother, which is the reason he ran away in the first place. He sends messages to his brother to say he's coming in peace and he doesn't want to fight. And the messengers come back and say, your brother is coming to you with a full army. He sends gifts to his brother. He prepares for war. And then he does what every good Jew does when they think they're in trouble. He prays. And his prayer is, Hatzileni miat achi miat Esav. Save me from my brother. Save me from Esav. Strange. Why do you have to say both? He only had one brother. So say Esav, God will know it's his brother. Say his brother, God knows it's Esav. Why say both? Because he was talking about, not only now, Yaakov was talking prophetically, as our forefathers did all the time. So there are going to be times in history, never mind this time, but there are going to be times in history that we're going to have our run-ins with Esav. Rome, are the descendants of Esav. We had our run-ins with Rome. But sometimes Esav can act as a brother. When Esav acts as an enemy, when he acts like Esav, it's destructive. It's deadly. People die. But when Esav acts as a brother, it can also be dangerous. Dangerous for who we are as a people. Let me explain. Throughout the centuries, we have had to face anti-Semitism. We've had to face the Holocaust. We've had to face pogroms. So much anti-Semitism over the years. But if you count how many Jews were lost because of anti-Semitic crimes, Holocaust, murders, it's not nearly as many as how many Jews were lost when Esav came as a brother and said, we love you and we want you to be part of us. This is more dangerous to us as a people than the anti-Semitic Esav. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, when I taught in a school, we were fortunate to be one of the first schools to see a new documentary called Paperclips that had come into the movies. It was about a school in Georgia, public school in Georgia, that the kids had never even heard of the Holocaust, and they barely heard the word Jew. So some of the teachers thought we really need to educate these children, and they made a whole program over the Holocaust, which took years. And part of the program was that they collected paperclips from people all over the world, from Jewish people all over the world that knew someone who died in the Holocaust, and they needed enough. They needed 6 million paperclips, and they actually collected more than they needed. The question was, where do we store all these paper clips? So they got in contact with a couple of German reporters on location in America, and the German reporters were more than happy to help them. And they did a little research and found a cattle car that was used at one time to transport Jewish people into the camps. They had the cattle car shipped by boat to America, and then by train to Georgia. And they filled up this cattle car with those 6 million paper clips. They had even more, which they put into the basement of the school. After the documentary was over, they announced that they have a surprise for the schools that had joined them, and they introduced the Schroeders, the German reporters, wonderful people who helped with this project. And they got up and spoke. And they spoke about an old Jewish woman who invited them to her Christmas party. And they said, "Don't you want to invite us to a Hanukkah party?" She said, "No. None of that anymore. No differences. I'll invite you to a Christmas party. You can invite me to a Hanukkah party. Let's make just one big mix." After it was over, there was a question-answer period. And I went over to the Schroeders and I asked them my question. I said, "Why is that any less destructive than the Holocaust?" You see, how many Jews were lost because they wanted just to mix in? They wanted just to assimilate. Or they were approached by someone who convinced them to assimilate, convinced them to be like everybody else. And they forgot who they were. I actually made an argument between the husband and the wife. The husband was adamant that this is the way to end the anti-Semitism, and the wife said, "But you're going to end the people. There won't be a Jewish people left if we keep this up." We don't assimilate. When they come to us and they say, "We love you, we're your brother," that's when we're worried. In my facilities where I work and teach, very often I visit people in their room. I remember one time I had a guy who was very interested in Judaism, and he was a Jew and proud of it. But when he invited me to his room, and when I went in there was a stack of missionary material all over his dresser. And I said, "What's this about?" He said, "Well, they came and they gave out the material and they welcomed me and they were so nice." And I opened up the cover of one of them and it said, "Welcome." And there was a date of his baptism. I said, "What happened?" He said, I don't know. I really don't. I didn't go for baptism. They just said, I'm official now." So I made him a deal. I asked him if I could have this material and I'll give him something to replace it. I came back the next week with a translated version of the Torah by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan. And I handed that to him. And he was very glad to have it. Since then, every time he would see missionaries coming into the facility, he always got in contact with me and told me they're here. And what do? I just told him to avoid them. Very often I'll get a knock on my door. And very often I answer them the same way. I'm a very big believer in religion. I wish more people were religious. But the saying goes, you believe what you want to believe, and we'll believe what we want to believe. I told them I will actually go with them if they want me to. And I will point out, we have a very Jewish neighborhood here, I will point out the Gentiles in our neighborhood and let them go there. And I'm all for it. I encourage it. Let you believe what you want to believe, and let us believe what we want to believe. And then we will keep to what we've done for 3,000 years. And the Jewish people will remain strong. Shabbos.